Welcome to Revenge Files, a place where ordinary people tell the truth they have carried in silence and find the courage to set their lives straight. If you believe respect must be earned and that love shows itself in daily choices, you are in the right place. Take a moment to subscribe so you will not miss the next chapter of this story and others like it. And if this speaks to you, share it with someone who may need the reminder that dignity has a home here. Today's story is titled "My Grandkids Thought I Was Just the Babysitter Until I Handed Them the College Deeds." It started small, the way weeds do, with a polite text and a promise to circle back. "Could you swing by after lunch, Dad? We just need you for a few hours." The sitter canceled again. The first time I put on my good sweater and drove across town with the kind of relief that only a widower understands. The house was busy in that soft American way. A scented candle burning, a box from a delivery service on the counter, a fridge magnet shaped like a state. The baby needed changing. The 4-year-old wanted a snack. And my daughter-in-law, all kindness and hurry, pressed her phone into my hand and asked me to order a show that would keep them quiet. "You are a lifesaver," she said, and I believed her. A few hours turned into the afternoon, and the afternoon turned into evening, and before I knew it, I was closing the dishwasher the way I used to close my son's bedroom door after he fell asleep with a book on his chest. They came home tired and grateful. There was a takeout bag with my name on it. There was a promise that we would all get dinner next week and toast to how lucky we were to have each other. I drove home with the bag buckled into the passenger seat and a little song humming in my chest. It sounded like purpose. Purpose kept calling. There were swim lessons and dentist appointments and a last-minute client dinner. "Could you, Dad? Just a few hours. You always were so good with kids." The words felt like a hand on my shoulder, and I let them guide me through the weeks. I learned the names of their stuffed animals and which chair rocked the least. I grew familiar with the neighborhood school's pickup line and the way the little one crumpled like a leaf at 4 o'clock. On my kitchen table, a new calendar bloomed. Hand-drawn squares and notes about snack days and soccer cleats. I stopped writing in my own appointments because mine could always move. I used to be a foreman at a parts factory. I knew how to be needed. It was one of the last skills I felt fluent in. Holidays arrived like they always do, wrapped in predictable paper. I brought pies. I told the same joke about store-bought and homemade, and everyone laughed the way families do, in rhythm and together. There was grace before the meal, but I noticed my name never entered the short list of thanks. People thanked time and new jobs and a vacation on the calendar. They thanked healthy children and the fact that the furnace held out through the cold snap. I bowed my head anyway and folded my hands on the old knuckles my father once called a map of his work. After dessert, my grandson tugged my sleeve and asked why I came over so often. "You are like the sitter," he said, smiling, and the smile did not mean anything to him beyond what it was, the bright honesty of a child. I laughed and told him I came because I loved being with him, which was true, and because somewhere along the way my visits were no longer invitations. They were assumptions. If you have lived long enough, you learn to read a silence the way some people read weather. A storm does not always announce itself with thunder. Sometimes it comes as the absence of a call. When my son turned 40, there was a party I heard about from a neighbor who heard about it from a colleague. I watched the pictures bloom on a social feed that I needed my old glasses to see. There were balloons that spelled a number and a cake with tasteful layers, and a rented room that looked like the lobby of an airport hotel. I watched my son raise a glass to his wife and to the next decade. I watched the children in their pressed shirts, my grandson throwing up two stiff fingers in a gesture he had seen other boys make when they felt important. There were a lot of faces in the photo, blurred and beautiful and young, but I was not in any of them. Neither was I in the group text that followed. "Great night," someone typed, and the little hearts went off like fireworks. I told myself I must have missed an email. I checked the address I have had since the days when the internet arrived with squealing dials. I looked in the spam folder at offers for magic supplements and cruise deals. I cannot lie. I also looked at the old photos on my own shelf, the ones where my wife was still alive and none of us had learned to speak in edits and captions. In those pictures, I am not missing. I am holding a boy who will one day hold a boy. I am steadying a bicycle seat at the curb. I am showing a child how to take a splinter out without fear. The invitation that never came taught me more than the party would have. It showed me the shape of my place in their house. It was not a chair at the table. It was a hook by the door. On weekdays, I walked the children to school while their parents slept off their late nights or prepared their early mornings, depending on the mood. On Sundays, I picked up groceries and put the refrigerator in order like a man trying to make sense of a life. My daughter-in-law began to text me lists without hello or goodbye. My son sent thank you notes with thousands of miles between the words. When I asked if we might all sit down and talk about a schedule that would let me keep my volunteer shift at the library, my son smiled in a way that made him look like his mother when she was stressed, and said they could really use me Tuesdays and Thursdays too. "We just do not trust strangers with the kids, Dad. It is so hard to find good help. Good help." I carried that phrase home as if it were something fragile. I set it on my table and turned it over. Help can be good, I thought, but it cannot be all a person is. Even a hammer needs a place to hang. I tried to give the benefit of the doubt the way the wise men in church used to preach. Young families are tired. The mortgage feels like an extra body in the house. Work eats the heart if you let it. I told myself they did not mean to take me for granted. They were simply standing where the light was easiest. When a man is available, the world says wonderful, and then quietly makes a box out of him. One night, after a long day, my grandson asked me how much I get paid. He was 7.5 and about 2 inches away from the age when life starts to teach you what it really means. He asked it the way you ask a question about the weather. I told him that love is not paid in dollars. He said the other sitters get money and snacks, and sometimes go home in a car someone else pays for. Then he patted my arm and said he liked that I was free. The word free sat in me like a splinter under the skin. Free as in no cost. Free as in available. Free as in the man nobody needs to invite because he will show up anyway. It might comfort you to hear that I confronted them then and there, that I delivered a speech so clean and firm it changed the climate of our home. But life is slower than scenes, and I am older than my anger. I went home to my small house and poured tea for myself, the way my wife used to, 2 slow circles of honey, and a little steam rising like a prayer. I sat at the table and took out a folder I had been quietly filling for years. It held numbers and statements and letters that were not quite promises but could be, if the time was right. On the front I had written only 2 words to keep myself honest: earn respect. When the morning came, the requests did too. Could you, Dad? There is a fundraiser at the school and a thing at the office and a sitter who charges extra on weekends. I agreed, but I added a sentence I had not used before. "We will talk soon." I said it without heat and without apology. I said it like a man who understood the difference between usefulness and worth. The thing about an invitation is that it tells you not only where to be but who you are to the person sending it. If it never comes, that too is a message. I finally understood mine. They thought I was the babysitter. It was time they learned who I had chosen to be for them. What they did not know was that in the quiet hours between their needs, I had been drawing a different map for our family, one where respect was the road and love the toll, and the destination was a future they wanted, but had not yet learned how to earn. I didn't set out to teach them a lesson. That's what people think when they hear stories like mine, that old men are full of grudges, looking for a moment to swing back. But the truth is, when you get to my age, you're not looking to fight. You're just looking to be seen clearly, and if you can't be loved, you at least want to be understood. I wasn't plotting revenge. I was preparing a legacy. The idea came to me slowly, like the way light creeps through curtains before you're fully awake. A newspaper article buried in the financial section mentioned rising college tuition. A headline I might have skipped in my younger years now held my gaze. A few days later, at the library where I volunteered, a teenage boy asked me how to file for FAFSA. His parents weren't sure how. He didn't even know what his GPA was. I walked him through it, and I saw something in his eyes, a flicker of fear that he'd miss a train he didn't know how to board. That night, I opened my drawer and took out the folder again. I had always saved, not because I was frugal, but because I was raised in a world where tomorrow was never promised. My wife and I had never taken big vacations. We never owned more than one car. We didn't believe in upgrades unless something was broken. And when she passed, I didn't change any of that. What would I upgrade for? Who was I trying to impress? I just kept saving. Small amounts, quietly, consistently. Over time, they turned into something real. 3 accounts. One for each grandchild, set up in their names but under my control. A trust that would unlock the moment they turned 18, but with a condition. Not a legal one, not something a lawyer would enforce, but something deeper. Character. If they could look me in the eyes and know who I was, if they could treat me not as help but as family, not as background but as blood, then the door would open. If not, it would stay shut. The money would go elsewhere, to someone who needed it and knew what it meant to be loved by a stranger who owed them nothing. I called the trust the Earned Legacy Fund. It wasn't just about college. It was about the principle. I didn't want them to remember me as the man who drove carpool and folded laundry. I wanted them to remember that behind every load of dishes was a man who once worked double shifts in a factory so their father could afford braces. That behind every after-school snack was someone who once went hungry to pay off a mortgage. I wanted them to see me not the babysitter but the backbone. But here's the hard part. You can't teach that in a lecture. You have to let life deliver the lessons. So I started saying no. Not every time, just enough to confuse them. When my daughter-in-law asked me to take the kids on a Friday night because she and my son had dinner plans, I told her I had a meeting. She paused. "You have plans?" she asked, like I was a vending machine that had started charging coins. I smiled and said, "Yes, I do." When she asked what kind, I said I was catching up with an old friend, which was true. I just didn't say the friend was me. At first, it didn't register. They assumed it was a one-off. Then came the second no, and the third. And the week I dropped off the kids and didn't stay to help with homework. I noticed the shift not in the adults but in the kids. They began to look at me differently, like they had to earn my attention again, like I had become someone who had his own life, not just a permanent seat on the bleachers of theirs. One day, my granddaughter, the oldest, 12 and smart as a whip, asked me why I wasn't around as much. I looked her in the eye and said, "Because I wanted to see who you'd become without me filling in the gaps." She furrowed her brow like it was a riddle. I said, "Sweetheart, love isn't just what we get, it's what we notice. And I wanted to know if you'd notice me when I wasn't doing things for you." That night, she wrote me a letter, a real one, on paper. Inside, she said she missed our pancake Saturdays, that she didn't realize how many little things I did, like warming up their blankets in the dryer before nap time, or the way I always made sure her favorite spoon was clean for cereal. "I thought that just happened," she wrote, "but now I know it was you." I didn't cry, but something inside me exhaled like a weight I didn't know I was holding finally stepped off the scale. I pinned the letter on the inside of the trust folder. It wasn't time yet, but we were getting closer. Every Sunday now I invited the kids, just the kids, to my house. No errands, no pickups, just them and me. We cooked. We played cards. I told them stories about their father, about how he used to think tree bark was dinosaur skin, about how he once cried when his bike fell in the lake and I jumped in after it, wallet and all. They laughed. They asked questions. They saw their father in a new light, and slowly I began to feel something return. Not obligation, connection. The oldest started bringing a notebook. She'd write down little things I said. The middle one, shy but observant, began drawing pictures of my house, labeling things like Grandpa's favorite chair and the squeaky floorboard that tells you he's coming. The youngest, only 5, once whispered, "I wish I lived here," while falling asleep in my lap. They were remembering me, not the sitter, the man. That was when I knew the time would come soon. Not yet, but soon. Because if the foundation is love, real love, then the structure you build on it will last longer than any trust fund. But if it's only convenience, then it collapses the moment you stop being convenient. And I was done being convenient. It was a Tuesday when the moment finally arrived, not with fireworks or fanfare, but with a knock on the door and a missed call from my son. The knock came from my granddaughter. She was holding a school permission slip in one hand and a plastic container of banana muffins in the other. "We made extras," she said. "Mom said to ask if you were free to babysit Thursday after school." I let her in. She sat at the kitchen table like she always had, but this time she wasn't bouncing her feet. She looked at me the way kids do when they know something's changed but aren't sure what it is. "You still have my spoon?" she asked. I opened the drawer and handed it to her, already clean. She smiled. Then, like it had been waiting on her tongue for hours, she asked, "Grandpa, are you mad at us?" I took a long breath. "No, sweetheart," I said, "but I'm paying attention." She blinked, her eyebrows rising in that gentle panic only the honest can feel. "To what?" "To how I'm treated, and more than that, to what you've learned from me, or haven't." I poured 2 glasses of iced tea. She didn't touch hers, just held it between her palms. "Have I done something wrong?" she asked. I leaned forward, folded my hands like I was back at the union table. "Not wrong, just unaware, which can be worse if you don't learn from it." That was the beginning of the talk. Not a lecture, not a scolding. A talk, the kind of thing every child deserves from an adult who sees them as capable of growth, not just obedience. I told her stories, not of hurt, but of history. I told her about my first job, scraping rust off railings in the freezing cold, gloves with holes in them, and a boss who said my work wasn't visible enough to matter. I told her about the day I bought her father his first baseball glove and how I couldn't afford dinner that night but did it anyway because some gifts teach more than any meal. I told her about love and how it doesn't always come with big words or bows. Sometimes it comes as a clean spoon, a warm blanket, a ride to practice in the rain. She listened, still and quiet, her eyes glossy but not from guilt, from recognition. And that was when I said it. I've started a college fund for each of you. Her jaw dropped just a bit. But how? Why? Because I believe in preparing doors for people who don't know they'll need them yet. Then I added, but it's not just a gift, it's a mirror. She tilted her head. A mirror? Yes, it will reflect who you are by the time you walk through it. I took out the folder, the Earned Legacy Fund. I placed it on the table, thick with records, statements, letters, and handwritten notes I had been compiling since the first time I held her in my arms. I showed her the conditions, printed in simple language. To access this fund, the recipient must maintain regular and honest communication with the donor, participate in a family project to understand and document their heritage, perform a community act of service in my name, not for fame but for continuity, demonstrate respect through action, not words, over the course of 1 calendar year, invite the donor to 1 meaningful milestone per year. She read the list slowly, as if it were a spell she didn't want to cast too quickly. Then she whispered, That's fair. I think so too, I said, because the world will give you many things without asking who you are. But the things that last, the ones with weight, should ask something back. She nodded. Then, as if returning a promise, she placed the banana muffin tin on my counter. I'll tell the others, she said. We'll earn it. Not because of the money. I could see that in her face, but because of the shift, because she had seen me. Not as the helper, not as the old man with keys to the house, but as her grandfather, a man with a past, a man with a heart, a man who gave not for thanks but for meaning. Later that night my son called. He didn't leave a voicemail, just rang once and hung up. It was his way. But the next morning he showed up at my door. No kids, no excuses, just him. I heard about the fund, he said. I didn't ask how. Word travels in families the way wind travels through screen doors, quiet but certain. He looked at me differently, maybe for the first time in years. Why didn't you tell us? He asked. Because you weren't ready to hear it. And now, I smiled, not cruel, not smug, just certain. Now I think you might be. He looked at the folder still sitting on the table. He didn't open it. He didn't ask how much. He just nodded, then added quietly, I'm sorry if we made you feel like help. You didn't make me feel like it, I replied. You treated me like it. But feelings fade, patterns last. That's what I'm here to change. He swallowed. What do you need from me? Start by coming to dinner this Sunday. No kids, just us. Like old times. He nodded. And that, my friend, was the beginning of everything changing. Not because I gave them money, because I asked them to earn me back. I cooked more than I needed to that Sunday. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans with toasted almonds, a peach cobbler from scratch. I hadn't made that dish in over a decade, not since my wife's last birthday when she laughed through the candle smoke and told me it tasted like summer had a soul. I set the table for 3. No children, no distractions. Just me, my son, and my daughter-in-law. It felt almost like a wager. If they showed up, I'd believe something in them still remembered the root, not just the fruit. They arrived 10 minutes late. Not a word about traffic or delays, just a quiet entry and the kind of tension you only feel when the air remembers what you haven't said. He looked tired. Not just in the face, but in the way he stood. Like a man who'd finally realized that something was broken but wasn't sure how long it had been that way. She brought wine. Red, probably expensive. The kind you give not out of affection but apology. I opened it without a word. We sat. They complimented the food. I nodded. We ate, slowly, quietly. Halfway through the meal, my son cleared his throat, a small sound, but in that room it was thunder. "Dad, I didn't know you'd been saving all that time." "I wasn't saving for you," I replied gently. "I was saving for what mattered." He looked down, folded his napkin into a shape I couldn't recognize. Then she spoke, my daughter-in-law, who had once called me her second dad before the convenience of free childcare turned me into a fixture. "You should have said something," she said softly. "I did," I replied, "just not with words. Every Wednesday when I brought lunch for the kids, every time I fixed the broken cabinet or restocked the pantry, every moment I stood in your home like wallpaper, I was speaking." She blinked fast, tears threatening, but not out of pity, out of realization. I leaned back and said the thing I'd been holding like a stone in my chest. "You stopped inviting me." He looked up, eyes wide. "I was always available, so you stopped seeing me." No one spoke for a long time. I let the silence work. Sometimes silence says what words can't. After a moment, my son said something I hadn't expected. "I think I was angry at you," he admitted. "Why?" I asked. "Because you made it look easy, loving us, providing, showing up. I thought, maybe I was afraid you made me look bad in comparison." And just like that, the curtain pulled back. The resentment I'd felt but never named. The invisible distance between us, born not of hate but shame. "You think I wanted to outperform you?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "I just knew the kids always looked happier when you were around. They listened to you, they respected you. I guess I felt replaced." I nodded. "That's fair. But son, I never tried to replace you. I was trying to fill in the gaps you didn't know you were leaving. That's what fathers do, not because they think they're better, but because they hope their sons will do the same one day." He lowered his head. One tear fell, just one, and he wiped it away before his wife saw. "I want to be better," he said. "That's all I've ever wanted," I replied. And then something small, almost unnoticeable, happened. She reached across the table and took his hand. He didn't pull away. That may sound trivial, but if you've been married long enough, you know when people are drifting, touch becomes absence. That moment, that hand on his, was a bridge being rebuilt. I stood and walked to the hallway closet. From the top shelf, I brought out 3 envelopes. I handed one to each of them and one I kept in my hand. They opened them slowly. Inside were the details of the trust. Not the total balance, I still hadn't told them the amount. Just the rules, the name, and a short letter. My son read aloud. "Respect is not inherited. It is earned over meals, over years, over moments that don't make it into photos. This is not a gift. This is a mirror. It will show you what you gave back to the man who gave you his time." They both looked up at me. "I'm not doing this to control you," I said. "I'm doing this to remind you that the best things in life, the ones worth keeping, are never free. They cost you time, humility, and attention. And in return, they give you back your name." She wiped her eyes. He swallowed again. "You said 3 envelopes," he said. "Who's the third for?" I held it up. "This one's for me," I said. "It's a record, not of the money, of the moments." I opened it. Inside were photographs, handwritten notes, drawings from the kids, my granddaughter's spoon, a copy of the letter she'd written. Even a sticky note from years ago that read, "Thanks for lunch, Grandpa. I love your sandwiches the best." Crayon hearts on the corners. "This one stays with me," I said, "because no matter what happens with the fund, I've already been paid. We finished the meal in near silence, but not a heavy silence anymore. A thoughtful one, a healing one. As they were leaving, my son lingered at the door. "Dad," he said, "what if the kids mess it up? What if they fail one of the conditions?" I smiled. "Then they'll learn something more valuable than a check. They'll learn that relationships have boundaries, and that earned love doesn't mean withheld love. It means accountable love." He nodded, a long, slow nod, the kind men give each other when words are no longer enough. They left. And for the first time in years, the house didn't feel like a waiting room. It felt like mine again. A few weeks passed quietly, not silent, just still, like the moment after snow falls but before anyone steps into it. The grandkids returned as they always had, but something had shifted. They knocked now, even when the door was open. They asked if I was busy, even when I was clearly alone. Politeness had crept in, not out of fear, but out of awareness. The youngest called me grandpa again instead of the sitter. The middle child, usually shy, asked if I wanted to come to her school's art show, not because I was free, but because she said it wouldn't be the same without me. The oldest, though, my 12-year-old granddaughter, she was the one who changed the most. She started asking questions, deep ones, about my past, about her dad's childhood, about what scared me growing up. She'd write my answers in a little blue notebook, the same one she used to doodle in while ignoring vegetables at dinner. One Sunday, while the younger ones were outside, she stayed behind and asked, "Grandpa, do you think people know when they're taking someone for granted?" I paused, then gave her the truth, plain and simple. Not always. Sometimes they only know when that person stops saying yes. She nodded, but she didn't write that down. Instead, she said, "I think I did that to you. I didn't mean to, but I think I did." And for the first time, I realized something important. This trust, this so-called test, wasn't just about proving their love, it was about helping them understand it. Because kids don't come out of the womb knowing how to love responsibly. They learn it from what we allow and, more importantly, from what we refuse. That's why the first test came not from me, but from life. It was a Thursday afternoon when my daughter-in-law called, panicked. The youngest had a fever. The pediatrician's office was closing soon. My son had a last-minute work emergency. "Can you pick up the kids and wait at the house?" she asked. "We won't be long, you're our emergency contact." I hesitated, not because I didn't want to help, but because I needed to know why they were asking. I said, "What about the neighbor? She's not available. What about that babysitter, Amanda? She charges extra on short notice." "And me?" A long pause, then finally, "Your family." It was the first time in months that the word didn't feel like a placeholder. "Okay," I said, "I'll go." When I arrived, the oldest was already waiting with her shoes on. She opened the door and handed me a folded piece of paper. "I made a schedule," she said. A schedule. It had snack times, homework blocks, even 10-minute breaks labeled "Talk to Grandpa." I smiled so wide I almost forgot why I was there. The youngest was on the couch, flushed but calm. The middle one sat beside him, reading a story out loud. They'd made a blanket fort, not messy, but organized with labeled pillows. They'd prepared, not just for the afternoon, but for me. When my son and his wife returned 2 hours later, they didn't rush in or dump their bags on the floor. They entered quietly, observed the fort, the organized snacks, the books neatly stacked by the fireplace. "We thought it would be chaos," she said. "It usually is," he added. Then the oldest handed them each a short note, written in her now familiar cursive. "We want Grandpa to know we care. Not because of the trust, but because of the truth. We miss him. We see him now. We're sorry we didn't before." I didn't know she'd written those notes. I didn't ask her to. They had passed the first test and not the one I created, the one life handed them, the one where they could have fallen back into old habits but chose new ones instead. As they were leaving, the oldest whispered, "Will you tell us when it's time, to unlock the trust?" I nodded. "I will, when you stop asking when, because that's how it works. When love becomes less about the reward and more about the relationship, that's when it's earned." That night I didn't file away any papers. I didn't update any spreadsheets. I simply sat in my favorite chair, drank warm tea, and looked at the blank space on the shelf where the folder used to sit. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. And I knew the second test would come soon, from life, from pressure, from discomfort. But now I believed they were ready, because the first step to growing up is realizing who raised you. The second test didn't come in the form of words. It came, as these things often do, with rain. Late April, one of those Midwestern thunderstorms that doesn't knock, it kicks in the door and dares you to flinch. I was home alone, the windows humming with wind when the power went out. I wasn't scared, not really. You don't get to my age without collecting storms like old war medals. But I'll admit, it felt lonelier than it should have. Something about the dark has a way of magnifying silence. I lit 2 candles and boiled water on the gas stove. Then I sat with my tea and listened not to the storm but to the house. The creak of the floorboards, the old clock ticking like a stubborn heart, and underneath it all a quiet truth I hadn't heard from my son in over a week. They hadn't checked in, not since that Thursday, not since the fever and the schedule and the apology notes. And in the quiet, doubt began to bloom. Maybe it was all temporary, a show, a performance to get the fund. Maybe old habits die so slowly you barely notice they are still breathing. I don't like thinking that way. But when the power's out and you're older than the fuse box, your thoughts turn blunt. Then came the knock. Not the doorbell, it was out with the power. A real knock. Wet, rushed, familiar. I opened the door and there they were, all 3 of them, in raincoats too big for their bodies, huddled together like a stack of apologies. The oldest held a flashlight. "Grandpa, are you okay?" I stared, startled. "How did you get here?" "Dad dropped us off. He had to go back something at work." "Does he know you're here?" She nodded. "He told us to check on you." I blinked, the rain maybe, or something behind my eyes. They took off their shoes without me asking. They hung their coats neatly. They put their backpacks in the corner. The middle child ran to the kitchen and grabbed the candle. "We made a plan," she said. "If the lights go out at your house, we come over." "Since when?" I asked, stunned. "Since we started caring," the oldest said plainly. The youngest tugged at my sleeve. "Do you need help with your blanket? Mommy says old people get cold." I laughed, a real laugh, the kind that shakes the dust off your heart. They made sandwiches, sloppy ones, peanut butter sticking out the sides. No crusts because they remembered. We sat on the floor like it was a campout. And then the oldest said something I'll never forget. "We don't want the trust fund yet," she said. "We want the time." I paused. "What do you mean?" She looked at her siblings, then back at me. "We don't want to earn you for the money. We want to earn you because we didn't realize how much we'd already lost." The middle child chimed in. "We thought you were the helper, but you were the heart." And the little one added softly, "We love you more than pancakes." Which, in his world, was monumental. The storm raged outside, but it didn't matter. Because inside the lights were off, but I had never seen them more clearly. They weren't perfect. They were young, flawed, growing, but they were trying. That's all love really asks for, not perfection. Just the willingness to show up in the rain without being asked. Later that night, after I tucked them in on the pull-out couch and made sure every forehead was kissed and every blanket was tucked tight, I went to my drawer and pulled out the trust folder. I added a new sheet. April storm test passed, not because of obedience, but because of presence. Presence matters more than performance. Because when the wind rises and the lights go out, you don't need someone who remembers your birthday, you need someone who remembers you. That night I didn't feel old. I felt held. Mother's Day arrived with the usual pinks and pastels, overpriced flowers, brunch reservations, phone reminders pinging like guilt. It had always been a hard day for me since my wife passed. For decades, I'd spend the morning quietly placing a rose by her photo and writing her a letter I'd never send. The kids didn't know I did that. I didn't want them to. But this year was different. This year, I received an invitation. An actual, formal, printed invitation, cream-colored with embossed gold lettering. It said, Mother's Day brunch hosted by the kids and Dad, honoring the women in our lives and the man who stepped in when we weren't looking. I thought it was a joke at first, a misprint, but on the back was a handwritten note. Grandpa, you've filled more shoes than we can count. Please sit at the head of the table. You've earned it. That last line, you've earned it, hit harder than they knew. When I arrived that Sunday morning, the house was decorated, not with store-bought signs, but with crayon-colored drawings of my wife, of me, of all of us. The kids had drawn our family tree, and for the first time I wasn't listed as babysitter or helper. Under my name they'd written, the foundation. There was a chair at the head of the table with a ribbon tied to it. I almost couldn't sit down, because that's what happens when you're used to folding yourself into corners. You forget what it feels like to take up space. They served me food before serving themselves. They asked me to say grace. And my son, my once proud, once distant son, stood up and said something I will carry with me until the day I die. He held his glass and looked at the room. I used to think my dad was just always there, like a clock on the wall, consistent, reliable, silent. I didn't realize until this year how loud his love was. I didn't know how much of my life was held up by his invisible hands. Dad, I'm sorry it took me this long. You weren't the backup plan, you were the blueprint. No one clapped, no one had to. They just looked at me, all of them, with something deeper than affection, recognition. And isn't that what every parent wants? Not thanks, not trophies. Just to be seen, really seen by the people they built their life around. After brunch, the oldest pulled me aside. Do we get to know how much is in the trust? She asked, a little nervous. I smiled. You will, but not yet. She frowned. Why not? Because if you're asking, you're still thinking about the money. But what should I be thinking about? I looked her square in the eyes. Whether you've become the kind of person who would still be here even if there wasn't any. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I think I'm getting there. And I believed her. That night back home, I opened the trust folder again. I updated the ledger. I added notes about the brunch, about the drawings, about the way my son looked at me like he finally saw the man who taught him how to hold a hammer and a family at the same time. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I wrote a new clause. At any time, if the recipients demonstrate authentic, sustained recognition of the donor's role in their life, regardless of monetary outcome, the trust may be released early at the donor's discretion. Not because I was softening, because I was rewarding growth, because in life and in family, sometimes the biggest transformation isn't in the will, but in the willingness. There are moments in a man's life that sneak up on him not with noise but with weight. Not long after that Mother's Day brunch, my son invited me to a barbecue, his idea, his grill, his guest list, And me not as a backup babysitter, not as someone filling in for the catering staff, but as his father. I hadn't heard him call me that in a long time. Not out loud, not with meaning. The backyard was filled with laughter and folding chairs. The kids were running around with ketchup-stained smiles, and for the first time in years I didn't feel like a spectator in someone else's family. I felt like I was standing on the porch of something I had helped build and now, finally, was being welcomed back into. At one point, while flipping burgers, my son looked over and said, "Dad, can you hand me that plate?" It was such a simple sentence, but I froze. Dad. Not hey, not you. Not Pop in that distant, ironic tone he sometimes used when he was half joking and half resentful. Just Dad. Like it had always been there, like he'd never stopped using it. He didn't notice he'd said it, but I did. I handed him the plate, and I think I smiled the rest of the afternoon without even realizing it. Later, when the kids were helping clean up, he came and sat next to me on the patio. We watched the sun go down the way old men do, quietly and with appreciation that doesn't need to be spoken aloud. I looked through the folder, he said. The trust. He nodded. I didn't realize how far back it went. The notes, the photos, the receipts. You've been planning this for years. Longer than you think, I replied. I wish I had known. You weren't supposed to, not until you were ready. He took a sip from his drink. Then he looked at me, really looked, the way a man looks at the person he finally understands was always fighting for him, even in silence. You know, he said, I used to think you were holding all this money over us, that you were testing us, making us jump through hoops. I was, I admitted, but not for the money. He nodded slowly. I get that now. Then he pulled something out of his pocket, a small envelope. Inside it was a note written in his handwriting. Dad, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just saying thank you. For the years I didn't thank you. For the time I treated you like a service instead of a father. And for never using your silence as a weapon. You were always there. Even when I didn't deserve you. I didn't cry. I didn't need to, because when a grown man, especially your own son, looks you in the eye and hands you his own words, that's a kind of wealth no bank account can match. I added the letter to the folder that night, of course. It belonged there, not because it was about the trust, but because it proved the trust had already done its work long before a single dollar was released. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done since my wife passed. I made pancakes, 3 stacks, one for each child, with little initials shaped out of blueberries. They came over after school and I told them why. Your dad used to get these when he was your age, I said, back when I was just learning how to love without knowing what I was doing. They smiled. The oldest took a photo. The middle one asked for seconds. The youngest gave me a sticky kiss on the cheek, and in that kitchen, covered in syrup and sunlight, I realized something profound. Respect isn't inherited, but it is contagious. When you plant it deep enough in one generation, it finds its way to the next, even if it skips a beat, even if it has to climb its way through misunderstanding and ego and years of unspoken pain. It gets there. That night I updated the trust, not the money, the name, from Earned Legacy Fund to the Family Table Trust, because this wasn't about legacy anymore. It was about belonging. And the table where we break bread, confess truths, raise toasts, and pass down names is the only place worthy of everything I'd saved. It was a Saturday afternoon when I got the unexpected knock. Not from my son, not the kids, from her, my daughter-in-law. Now, let me say this, we were never enemies. But there's a certain kind of tension that grows between in-laws when years of small slights, missed conversations, and buried assumptions stack up like dishes no one ever agreed to wash. She was holding a photo album, old one, the thick kind, with cracked leather edges and pages that smell like forgotten time. "I was cleaning out the guest room closet," she said. "Found this." I invited her in, made tea. She didn't take off her shoes, old habit, but she did sit down without waiting for me to offer. That was new. She opened the album and started flipping through. Photos from a time when she and my son were still just kids playing at adulthood. Their wedding, their first apartment, me holding their first newborn, eyes puffy with sleep and awe. "I didn't see it back then," she said. "See what? You." She looked me dead in the eyes, no softness, no cushion. "I saw a helper, a reliable grandpa, a man who never said no. I didn't realize you were still building this family long after the foundation had been poured." I let the silence sit there. It deserved space. "I should have asked you about your needs, your time, your life," she said. "You were busy raising a family," I said gently. "You were the family," she replied. That's when I knew this wasn't a casual drop-in. She didn't come to return a photo album. She came to return credit for all the things I did that no one noticed, not because they were invisible, but because I'd made them look easy. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her purse. Another letter. Seems the family was catching on to the power of ink. "I wrote this after the storm," she said. "The night the kids came to you, I didn't tell them to go. I didn't even know they went. They made that plan themselves." She handed me the letter. It read, "Dear Dad, I know I don't get to call you that often. Maybe I thought it belonged only to the man I married. But I see now there's more than one kind of father in a house. There's the one who teaches responsibility, and the one who models it. There's the one who shows up at parent-teacher conferences, and the one who shows up every single time without applause. You were the one who filled in the cracks without complaint, who taught my children to trust a man's presence more than his promises. I was wrong to take you for granted, but I'm not too proud to say it. Thank you for loving us while we were learning how to love you back. Love, your daughter, finally." I read it twice. Then I placed it carefully in the same folder that now held everything else. I didn't cry, but I did reach across the table and put my hand over hers. "You've raised good kids," I said. "No," she whispered, "you did." We sat in silence for a while, the kind that only exists between two people who have finally said everything they needed to. Before she left, she asked me a question. "Have you decided when to release the trust?" I nodded. "Yes." "When?" "When they no longer need it." She looked confused. I clarified. "When the money becomes the bonus, not the motivation, that's when I'll know." She smiled, not forced, not polite. "Real. You know, I think you're almost there," she said. "Maybe," I replied. "But I don't mind waiting. Because when a man spends a lifetime investing in a family, he knows not every return comes with a date stamp. Some arrive late, but when they do, they're worth everything." Graduation season arrived like it always does, with gowns too long, shoes too new, and the smell of folding chairs in a gymnasium trying to pretend it's a cathedral. It was the oldest, my granddaughter, who was finishing middle school. Not a grand milestone in the eyes of the world, but in the eyes of a grandfather it was everything. I had watched her learn how to tie her shoes, spell Mississippi, and write her first essay about the moon. And now here she was, tall and sure-footed, with a speech in her hand and braces almost off. I hadn't been told she was speaking at the ceremony. I got the invitation just like everyone else, printed, folded neatly, tucked into an envelope with a school logo and a generic message about parking and start times. But no one mentioned that when the student speaker was introduced, she'd be the one walking to the podium. I watched her, heart in my throat. She adjusted the microphone, took a deep breath, and then she started. Her voice was steady, clear, older than I remembered. When people talk about heroes, they often mean someone on a stage, someone with medals or a cape. But I want to talk about a hero who never wore a uniform, never shouted, never asked for credit. My breath caught. I knew where this was going. I could feel it in my bones, the ones that had carried her on piggyback through parks and sat cross-legged on the floor when my knees didn't want to. He made pancakes. He drove carpool. He showed up even when we forgot to say thank you, and I used to think he was just there because he had nothing else to do. She looked out over the crowd. Then she found me in the fifth row aisle seat, hands trembling just a little. But I know now that he was there because he chose to be, and he kept choosing us over and over, even when we didn't choose him. The auditorium was quiet, not the distracted kind, the sacred kind. He taught me that love isn't loud, it's consistent, it's quiet service, it's being seen when no one's looking. I saw parents shift in their seats. I saw one teacher dab her eyes. Then came the line, the one that made everything inside me stop. "Grandpa, this one's for you. I don't want the trust fund. I just want more time with the man who made me who I am." The applause didn't come right away. It took a second, like the room needed to remember how to breathe. And then, like a wave, it rolled in. She stepped down. I didn't move. I couldn't. I was holding something invisible in my hands, the weight of being recognized, not just as someone who helped out, but as someone who shaped a life. After the ceremony, families swarmed the lawn, balloons, cameras, flowers. She didn't go to her parents first. She came straight to me. "Did you like it?" she asked, eyes wide, voice small again. I didn't answer with words. I just hugged her, tighter than I probably should have. Long enough for her to say, "Okay, Grandpa, I can't breathe." She pulled back and grinned, and then out of her backpack she handed me a tiny wrapped box. Inside was a keychain. On one side, a tiny spoon engraved with my name. On the other, a date, that day's date, and 2 words, "You matter." It wasn't expensive, but it was priceless. That night, I didn't go straight home. I drove around for a while, past the park where I used to push her on the swings, past the library where she once sat next to me coloring while I pretended to read the paper, past the diner where I used to sit with my wife, back when being a grandparent was still just a dream. When I got home, I opened the trust folder. I added a new clause. Clause 7. At the moment the donor is honored publicly, without prompting and with sincere gratitude, the trust is considered fulfilled in spirit, and partial release may begin. Because some gifts aren't meant to be waited for. They're meant to be witnessed. And I had just witnessed the most valuable return on investment a man could ever hope for. Respect. Earned, spoken, shared. The morning after her speech, I awoke before the sun. Old habit. When you've worked early shifts for most of your life, your body forgets how to sleep past dawn. I made coffee the way my wife liked it, strong, no sugar, 1 splash of cream, and sat at the kitchen table with the folder. For over a decade, this folder had been my quiet rebellion, my resistance against being forgotten. My evidence that love could be documented, that time spent truly spent was worth more than time counted. Now it felt like something else entirely, not a ledger, a map. I opened the tab labeled Disbursement Guidelines. There were forms, drafted letters to the bank, notes to each grandchild, all written with care, none yet delivered. Until now, I started with the oldest. I wrote by hand, "My dearest girl, you spoke of me in a room full of people. But more than that, you saw me in a way most people don't get seen until they are gone. That moment, that speech, was the unlocking of something far more valuable than any trust. It was the unlocking of your character. And because of that, I am unlocking something else. Inside this envelope is the beginning of what I had set aside for you. Not all of it yet, you're still growing, but enough to show you that earned love comes with real returns. Spend it on something that stretches you, that dares you to be more. Education, experience, something that doesn't just add to your life but expands it. And when you use it, I want you to remember, this wasn't given because of blood. It was given because of who you became. Proud of you always, Grandpa. I sealed the letter and set it aside. Then I did the same for the second, the middle child, and the third, the youngest. Adjusted to age, maturity, and potential. Not equal in amount, but equal in intention. Fair doesn't mean identical. It means appropriate. It means loving with precision. For my son and daughter-in-law, I wrote a separate note. To the two who built the house I was allowed back into, you've grown in ways I did not expect, and I'm proud of you for it. This family was once leaning, tired, and unaware of the hands holding it up, but now it stands straighter. I am offering a gift, not a transaction, not a reward, a gift, to be used not for stuff, but for stability. Pay off something that keeps you up at night. Start something that excites you. Give back to someone who reminds you of your own journey, but only under one condition: that you continue building the table we all now sit at. That you never again forget who helped lay its first plank. You don't owe me anything, but you owe them, your children, the continuity of this respect. With love, Dad. That week I delivered each envelope personally. No drama, no announcement, just quiet handoffs paired with hugs that lasted longer than they used to. There were tears. There was disbelief. There were thank yous that didn't feel rehearsed. But what mattered most was what came after. No one rushed out to spend. No one flaunted it. Instead, the oldest called and said she wanted to use part of hers to attend a summer leadership retreat. They teach kids how to serve before they lead, she said. Thought that sounded like something you'd like. The middle one decided to buy art supplies, but also wrote a plan for a weekly grandchild-grandpa art day. She called it the Respect Project. She made a logo, and the youngest, he bought me a new spoon, engraved. The best grandpa in the whole world, but this time we're paying attention. That one I keep in my jacket pocket like a compass. Because now that the release had begun, I realized something profound. This trust wasn't an end. It was a beginning. I didn't just give them a future. They had finally given me a present. After the release, life took on a quieter rhythm, but not the kind of quiet that comes from absence. This was earned quiet, a peacefulness that settled in the bones after years of being unnoticed, unheard, and yet unrelentingly present. I had begun something I hadn't touched since my wife passed, my will. Not the legal one that had been sitting in a drawer, notarized and signed years ago, dry as dust. I mean the real will, the emotional one, the one a man writes not for courts or banks, but for the people who will one day sit in his living room and speak his name in past tense. It began on a yellow pad with the words, "This is what mattered to me." I thought it would be a simple list. It wasn't. Because once I started writing, I realized that I had carried an entire unwritten legacy in my heart, not in bank statements or real estate holdings, but in moments. Small ones, sharp ones, invisible ones that only made sense in the rearview mirror. Like the day my son skinned his knee and tried not to cry because he thought tears were weakness. I held him and told him the strongest men I ever knew did cry, especially when they cared deeply. Or the night I fixed the broken cabinet door in my daughter-in-law's kitchen, quietly, while she was out, not because I was told to, but because I wanted to make something easier for her without needing credit. Or the Sunday afternoon the middle grandchild sat beside me, drawing while I napped, and later said, "I kept quiet so you could dream something." I started writing those memories down, not as stories, as instructions, because wealth is temporary, but wisdom is a generational seed. So I wrote to my family, "Don't remember me for what I left you in numbers. Remember me for what I gave you in notice. I saw you. I believed in you before you believed in yourselves. I gave not out of duty but desire. And I withheld sometimes not out of anger but so you'd grow. You don't owe me gratitude, but you owe each other continuity. Keep building the table. Add seats. Invite outsiders in, especially the ones who have been forgotten like I once was, because love is not a closed circle. It's a dinner table with an extra chair." I titled the document, "The Real Trust," and placed it in the same folder. It would never see a courtroom, but one day it would sit in someone's lap, probably the oldest grandchild, and she would read it aloud, and they would nod in recognition. That same week, I made another decision. I revised the official will. I still left the bulk of my assets in the trust for the grandkids, divided according to age and need. But I added a clause. In the event that any of them uses their portion for personal gain alone, without any act of service tied to it, they forfeit 25%, which will then be donated to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. Not as punishment, as principle. Because the point was never to have money. It was to understand that money multiplies meaning or it multiplies selfishness, but never both. I also added a handwritten page to be read aloud at my funeral, just one paragraph. I loved you deeply. I saw every moment. I kept every drawing, every misspelled letter, every skipped stone. And if you are here today, I want you to know this. You were never a burden. You were the reason I kept going. Please now carry it forward, not because I'm gone, but because you finally see that I was always there. That was the day the folder felt full, not just in pages, in peace. Because when a man knows his life was seen and that his love was not wasted, that is wealth. And that is a will. Not the kind lawyers argue over, the kind children carry in their bones. It started with a group message, not a forwarded flyer, not a casual, "Hey, what are you doing next weekend?" A group message from my son, sent to his wife, the kids, and for the first time me, right at the top. "Family meeting Sunday afternoon at our place. Bring nothing, just yourself. Love you. Love you." I read that part twice, not out of disbelief, but because those words, typed by a grown man who once struggled to say anything at all, now held weight, unforced, sincere. I showed up early that Sunday. I still do that, arrive ahead of schedule, just in case they need a hand, just in case something goes wrong. The old factory man in me doesn't know how to stop looking for things to fix. But this time there was nothing to fix. The house was spotless. The dining table had place cards. The kids were dressed like they were expecting a senator. And in the center of it all, on a small easel by the window, was my photo. Not a memorial photo, a tribute. A picture of me holding all 3 grandchildren on my lap back when they were tiny and squirming and still smelled like crayons and spilled juice. Above it, a sign read, "Today we honor the foundation." I tried to swallow, didn't work. My son welcomed me with a hug, not a side hug, a real one, the kind that said, "I remember who you are now," gestured to the head of the table. "Sit, Dad, this one's yours." I sat, then he stood, What followed was not a toast, not a tribute, not even a speech. It was a passing of something. He looked around the table, cleared his throat, then said, "We spent a long time thinking this was our home and you were just visiting, but we were wrong. This house, this family, it stands because of you. And today we're doing what we should have done years ago. We're giving you back your place." He handed me a box. Inside was a single brass key. Attached to it was a tag that read, "Master Copy." He said, "We changed the locks last month. Every new key is a copy of this one, and it belongs to you because this isn't our house anymore. It's ours, all of us, starting with you." The grandkids clapped. My daughter-in-law dabbed her eyes, and I, the man who once stood in this very kitchen as a ghost with dish gloves, now sat as the honored guest. But they weren't finished. The middle child stood up with a binder. She opened it like a ceremony. Inside were pages of drawings, family stories, photos, letters, recipes, even notes from my old folder, the ones they'd asked to include. At the bottom was a title page. The Grandpa Book, Volume I, before we noticed. They told me Volume Roman II was in progress, written after they noticed. That afternoon, we didn't talk about trust funds or balances or clauses. We talked about childhood memories, about the way the living room always smelled like cinnamon, about how my old stories, the ones they once rolled their eyes at, had become family legends. At one point, the youngest asked, "Grandpa, did you know you were the main character all along?" I laughed. "I thought I was the janitor." He smiled. "You were, but like the magic kind, like in movies. We played cards after dinner, like we used to, but now they let me win just once out of respect, not pity. When I went to leave, I took out my coat. My son stopped me. 'You're not leaving yet.' 'Why not?' I asked, smiling. 'Because from now on you don't knock. This is your home, too.' He pointed at the key still in my hand. 'That's not just for emergencies. That's for whenever you remember that we finally remembered you.' That night I didn't go home. I stayed over, slept in the guest room. The bed was made, the sheets warm, and on the nightstand waiting for me was a small framed quote. 'Love doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to last.' They had taken my words and made them their own. The house was quiet as I drifted to sleep, but not the kind of quiet that forgets, the kind that remembers everything. Some weeks later, I found myself at the local park. Same one I used to take the kids to when they were too young to tie their shoes, too wiggly to sit still at home. It was early morning. The air still carried that cool breath of dawn, the kind you feel in your chest more than on your skin. I hadn't been there in years, not since they'd stopped asking me to take them. But today, I was drawn there, as if something old inside me wanted to check in on something older still. I walked slowly past the swings, past the duck pond where we used to throw stale bread, and finally to the bench. It was still there. Same worn wood, same spot beneath the old oak that cast just enough shade in the summer and let enough light through in the spring. But now there was a plaque on it, brass, clean, recently installed. I stepped closer to read it. "To the man who sat patiently while we grew up, we finally saved you a seat. With love from your family." I sat down without even realizing it. The kind of sitting that isn't about rest, it's about arrival. They had done it again, not with money, with meaning. I must have sat there an hour, maybe more, watching kids play, parents scroll their phones, couples pass by on runs they probably didn't want to be on, but it didn't matter. I wasn't watching them, I was watching time. My time, the kind I had given away so freely, for years, for decades, and now, somehow, was returning to me not in minutes but in moments. A young father sat on the bench next to me eventually. His daughter, maybe 5 years old, was playing nearby. He glanced at the plaque, then at me. "Must have been someone special," he said, nodding toward it. I smiled. "He still is," I replied. He raised an eyebrow, a little confused. But then he looked again at the plaque, then at my face, and something clicked. "You." I nodded. He paused, then said something I'll never forget. "I hope I become that guy someday." I turned to him, looked him right in the eye, and said, "You already are if you stay long enough to be forgotten and remembered again." He looked down, thoughtful. Then his daughter ran back over, squealing about a butterfly. He chased after her. And I watched him like a mirror to the past, a reminder that we don't build legacy with declarations. We build it with presence, not when it's convenient, but when it's needed, and especially when it's not noticed. As I stood up to leave, I touched the plaque once more. There was one more line I hadn't seen earlier, tucked at the very bottom. "Your seat is always here, in our home, in our hearts, forever." I walked away slower than I came, not because I was tired, because I wasn't in a rush anymore. Because when a man's been handed back his place in the world, not out of guilt, but out of earned grace, he walks differently. Not proudly, but peacefully. It began like any other Saturday morning. Sunlight eased through the blinds, casting soft stripes across the kitchen floor. The house was quiet but not empty, the kind of quiet that waits, not the kind that forgets. I was up before the kids arrived, batter already mixed, blueberries washed, pan warmed. I moved slowly but with purpose, like a man who knew every corner of this kitchen and, more importantly, knew that today was going to matter. It had been months since we'd made pancakes together. Life gets busy. School schedules, summer camps, new friends, teenage moods. I didn't take it personally. I'd raised their father. I knew how the seasons of closeness come and go like tides, but they had called this one. They asked for it. Grandpa, the oldest, had said on the phone, "We miss the old Saturdays." So here we were. The door opened and they came in one by one, bigger now, taller, more self-assured. But the moment they caught the smell of pancakes on the griddle, something in their shoulders softened. Time peeled back just a little. "Same recipe?" the middle one asked. "Same spoon," I said, holding up the old mixing ladle, its handle wrapped in faded red tape from years ago. They laughed. The youngest, now 7, hugged me without hesitation. Not because someone told him to, but because it still lived in him naturally. They set the table without being asked, put out the syrup, the butter dish, the mismatched plates we'd used for years. And then, without warning, the oldest pulled something from her backpack, a small wrapped package. She slid it across the table. "For you," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "What's the occasion?" She smiled. "Because you stayed long enough for us to really know you." Inside the box was a book, hand-bound, heavy. The cover said, "The Legacy Ledger Volume Roman II, what we saw when we finally looked." I opened it. There were pages and pages of letters, drawings, stories from each of them, memories I had forgotten but they hadn't, photos of old Saturdays, illustrations of me flipping pancakes, tying shoelaces, holding umbrellas over heads too small to reach shelter. One letter, written in the oldest's careful script, said, "Grandpa, we know about the trust fund, and we're grateful, but this book, this is our trust. What you invested in us, not just with money, but with love, discipline, grace, patience. We've cashed in every lesson, and we're spending it by becoming people you'd be proud of." I closed the book slowly, hands trembling just enough to remind me I was alive. I looked at all 3 of them. They weren't kids anymore. They were keepers now, of values, of time, of each other. And then I made a decision. I stood up, walked to the drawer, pulled out the original folder, the trust documents, the letters, the saving statements, and placed it on the table. "I'm done keeping this," I said. They looked confused. You mean? The middle one asked. I nodded. It's yours now, all of it, every dollar, every condition fulfilled, every lesson learned, every ounce of love earned and returned. The youngest asked, even the spoon. I smiled, especially the spoon. We ate pancakes slowly that morning, talked about college plans, summer trips, books they were reading. They asked about my first car, my favorite movie, my worst haircut. We laughed a lot. When it was time to go, they didn't rush. They cleared the table, packed leftovers, and each gave me a hug long enough to remember. The oldest lingered. "Grandpa," she said, "can we keep doing this?" "Doing what?" I asked. She gestured around. "This, the pancakes, the stories, the remembering." I nodded. "Every Saturday I'm breathing, there's a seat for you." As the door closed behind them, I realized something. This wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning of their own first Saturdays, where they would become the ones who show up, who stay, who pour into others what someone once poured into them. And maybe someday, long after I'm gone, one of them will mix batter with a child or grandchild, slide pancakes onto a warm plate and say, "Let me tell you about the man who taught me what it means to earn love the right way." And that, right there, will be my forever. It was my birthday. 80. The kind of milestone that makes people speak in softer voices, bring you cardigans, and cut your cake smaller than you'd like. I told them not to make a fuss, but when you've built a family on your back, fuss is how they say thank you. They threw the party at the house, our house now, as they like to remind me. The living room was filled with the hum of life. Laughter in the kitchen, the rustle of wrapping paper, the clink of glasses against homemade lemonade. Not champagne, just lemonade, fresh squeezed, extra tart, the way I liked it. There were no grand speeches this time, no tears, just warmth. But then after the cake, my son stood up holding a small wooden box. It wasn't wrapped. It was handcrafted, sanded smooth. Engraved on the lid were the words, "For the man who gave us more than time." He placed it in front of me. I opened it. Inside was a pocket watch, old-fashioned, gold, elegant, but it wasn't about the object. It was about the inscription inside. On the inside cover, etched in his handwriting, it said, "You gave us years, we give you back every second. Your time was never wasted. With love, your family." I stared at it, the ticking steady and clean, and something in me, something quiet and long-suffering, finally exhaled. You see, that was always the fear, wasn't it? That I had given everything but never been seen. That I had poured out my hours, my sweat, my quiet dreams into a well that never echoed back. But now I had my echo, not in applause, not in repayment, but in remembrance. That night after the guests had left and the house had settled into the soft hush of evening, I sat in my chair with the watch in one hand and the folder in the other. I opened it one last time. The documents, now brittle from years of thumbing. The photos, their corners curled with time. The letters, some tear-stained, some crisp, all sacred. And finally, the page I had left blank since the beginning, titled, "When the Trust is Fulfilled." I picked up my pen and wrote, "They no longer need the money. They carry the meaning. They no longer seek approval. They live with intention. They don't call me out of duty. They call me out of love. The trust is fulfilled, and so is the man who made it." I closed the folder, slipped the watch into my pocket, and I smiled, not because it was over, but because everything I'd ever hoped for, every lesson, every sacrifice, every overlooked moment had taken root in their hearts. They would grow it. They would guard it. And one day they would give it away to their own children, not as inheritance, but as identity. As I turned off the light and stepped into the hallway, I heard the voice of the youngest grandchild calling from the guest room. "Grandpa, can we make pancakes in the morning?" I smiled. "You bet we can, because some trusts don't expire with time." They renew every morning in the hands that now know how to give what they were once given. And that is the final gift, the return of a love that was never lost, only waiting to be earned.